Have you ever wondered if you can put a septic system on somebody else's property? Today I want to talk to you about that, about a property that I was working on where we found that one of the neighbors, which was uphill, actually had their septic system in the same location. Kind of. It was about 20 foot to the left, but they still had their septic system right next to this house's septic system. And I think this would be a good idea and a good time for us to talk about easements. So how on earth can you put your septic system on somebody else's property? Easy answer is you have to have an easement to use their property. An easement, and I'm not a lawyer, so we're going to do this in the layman's terms, but an easement is essentially an agreement between two property owners that where property owner A is saying to property owner B, you are allowed to use my property for XYZ, whether that's a access easement where like you have a driveway, a utility easement, a sewage easement, something to that effect where basically it's saying, hey, you are able to do this on this property and only this, meaning they're allowed to put a water line, a sewer system, or even maybe gas, as long as they don't do anything else beyond that. So typically you'll see this happen with water systems, such as like drainage, right? So if you live in a cul-de-sac and you notice that there's all those manholes in the middle of the yard and it kind of cuts between the houses and then it goes off to like a ditch or to like a retention pond or something to that effect, usually that's going to have a utility easement somewhere on those property owners' lots. So that way, when the house was built, or the entire community was built, it was pre-planned that that was going to be used specifically for this purpose, meaning the homeowners of those lots, once it's built, cannot build on top of that easement area. This particular one, which we were looking at, we have ourselves a utility easement between two homeowners in order to deal with the sewer system. And the reason why is low-lying area, right? Easements can be used to address many different things. Typically, when I see septic systems that have an easement, is because the lot where the house was built has some kind of weird situation. Maybe they got a lot of clay. Maybe there's a river running through there. Maybe there's something going on with the well systems, and there was no option but to move that water, that sewer system, or that well, or whatever to somewhere else. Sometimes, especially when you get old farmhouses, the homeowner may build different houses for their family, right? Maybe they got two kids. You get lot A is going to be for one kid, lot B is going to be for the other one, and somewhere in the middle is where the septic systems goes. I see this happen a lot on really, really old houses, and most of the time they're not working, but they still exist, they're still there, and that still happens. A lot of times when we see a utility easement, it's because of something that the homeowner couldn't control. Often, a builder is not going to be allowed to build said home if they don't have a good sewer area. If it doesn't perk well, you have to get innovative, but if it's just absolute hot garbage and there's nothing you can do about it, they're just going to say, no, you're not going to be able to build a house. As I'm sure you're all aware, you're not really allowed to build on somebody else's home. That's why it's important to have an attorney, put it on the title, document it, so that way everybody knows that that particular project is allowed to happen on that particular parcel of the land. Usually where I see problems, a lot of times I'll see problems with fences. Now, fences, they work their way into a lot of mysterious, mischievous places that can cause some problems. But, you know, if nobody really throws a hissy fit about it, that fence is usually allowed to stay. Homeowners get a lot more fussy when it comes to septic systems like we have on our particular conversation that we're talking about right now. That system, if it's not got an easement to it, the homeowner who owns that land could remove the septic system, and then you're screwed. If you have two houses with the sewer systems and one of them is not owned or eased onto the property, and the homeowner decides to cut it and build a house where that system is, or cut it and slap their septic system to their old drain fields, there's nothing you can do. With the easement, they're not allowed to do it. So an easement will help protect you against a property owner causing problems. I'm not exactly sure how the conveyance of value is done. I imagine there's probably some payment that has to happen because you're devaluing the land, because the homeowner who owns it isn't really allowed to do anything with it anymore, because now you have the utility right, or you have the ability to do whatever the proposed thing is on that particular spot on the property. Having the easement protects you. But let's talk about the homeowner that doesn't know about a septic system or doesn't know about this, and there is no easement. I've had plenty of houses to where I'm working on the septic for lot A, and it's in a field, so nobody really knows what's going on. And then the owner of lot B comes running over to yell at me, trying to figure out why on earth I'm digging up in his field. And then we have the conversation of, hey, dude, this guy's septic system's in your land, and that can create a lot of problems. I once actually had a well that had a handshake deal to where homeowner A and homeowner B agreed that homeowner B was allowed to put his well on homeowner A's land. The tricky part is that was never recorded. I don't know the legality of a handshake deal when it comes to that sort of thing, but when it gets several owners removed, that can create a lot of problems. So this particular house with the well, that well was drilled in the 80s. Both homes have already sold multiple times. So the people who agreed to do that, they're no longer in possession of that house. That well's there. That well is the owner's or the drinking water and the water source for that property. If you don't have an easement, logic would probably say that you would lose access to that well. I'm pretty sure you could sue, and a handshake agreement is a handshake agreement. But what if the guy's dead? Right? Let's say that let's say it was an estate sale and they're no longer there. Well, how do you prove that it was a handshake deal besides just, that's what I heard through the grapevine? This can cause a lot of problems. So before you put your stuff on anybody else's lot, you have to make sure you do all of your due diligence. I've seen this burn so many people. I've seen horror stories on the internet about this happening to people. And because I saw a septic system right next to another septic system, I figured it was a great idea to go ahead and talk to you and bring this up to your attention, so that way if you're planning on doing anything interesting to your lot or maybe your neighbor's lot, you do it the correct way. So obviously go ahead, talk to an attorney, make sure you do all the right stuff, do your due diligence, make sure you follow all the codes, record it with the county and all that good stuff, so that way somebody knows that you did it and it's yours and nobody else is allowed to take it away or destroy it. If you found this useful, if you found this interesting in any way, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I have videos posted every day on the world of well and septic. Till next time, guys.